Hello, it's Corey, and welcome to another Freedom Investing Group YouTube video. Yay! Today, I'm going to do a little bit of a book review. I like to read. I'm a bit of a nerd, and as you know, I love mobile home parks. So this one that I read recently is an autobiography. It's called "Am I Being Too Subtle?" by Sam Zell. And so Sam Zell, pardon my French, but is a little bit of a badass. Anyway, he was the number one, he still is the number one owner of mobile home parks and RV parks in the country. He's the number one owner of apartment buildings in the country as far as has the most units. He was for a long time until he sold his office portfolio, the number one of Class A office space. He doesn't just do real estate, he does all kinds of business stuff. Just a fascinating guy, self-made billionaire, like multi-billionaire. Anyway, super inspiring story. His parents, his family's Jewish, and they got the heck out of Europe in World War II. They took like the last train out of I think it was last train out of Poland before the Germans bombed the tracks. Just I mean, a fascinating story. But what does this have to do with mobile home parks? Well, like I said, he's the biggest owner of them, and so he had anyway, I can't recommend the book enough. Just as an amazing, I couldn't put it down. Super fun read. But there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in here. A lot of stuff about risk and reward and supply and demand. And so I'm just gonna pick one of them, and I'm gonna draw some graphs and try to take my take on one of his things that was just like pretty cool. He talks a lot in there about supply and demand, and trying to find something where he's either got the supply is going to be flat and the demand is increasing, or where the demand is flat and the supply is decreasing. And then in those scenarios, if you can find those things, you can buy at today's prices and tomorrow's prices will be higher, right? There's going to be an increase in price. And I thought, so well, I'm going to share my screen right now. I drew up actually a little graph to picture this screen. All right. So, and this was just from my this is your high school macroeconomics. So if demand, so you can see here you've got a simple supply and demand graph here. And so what this means is that if you can get a lot of money, if you're selling something, you can't get very much money for it. There's, oh, should I do blue? There's, say you can't get very much money for it. There's not going to be that many people who want to try to develop this thing and build it and sell it. But as you increase the price, let's say you find a stock that throws off a 20% dividend, well, shoot, everyone's gonna. Sorry, that's demand. But anyway, as you increase the price you can get for something, more and more people are going to jump into the game and want to get it, right? So what's going to happen if you have a higher price is you're going to have more people that want to sell this thing, or the people that are selling are going to want to sell more of them, right? If you get if you're making 1,000% profit on something, you're going to want to do as much of that as you can. If you're making a 1% profit, well, maybe someone's going to do it, but not that many, right? So as the price that you can sell something for increases, the amount of that stuff trying to be sold and hit the market is going to increase. But conversely, the more of something that there is, the less price people are willing to pay for it. You can see this with all kinds of things, rare things like a Mickey Mantle baseball card. There's not that many of them. Doesn't really provide much value, but it is like a cool thing. Can sell Mickey Mantle baseball card. There's not, say, I'm going to use that one. There's not that many of those in mint condition. There's not that many of those, and so therefore the price that someone would pay for it because it is rare would be a lot. But if someone found a way to replicate those and went and printed 1 million Mickey Mantle baseball cards and sent them all over the country, people aren't obviously going to pay a high price for that because you can get them for 10 cents down at the baseball card shop, right? So it's going to be down here. And same thing with everything else, right? If you look at different foods, houses, anything, the less of them there are, so as you move this way, the higher the price people are willing to pay. And so that's just like the general supply and demand relationship. And so then what happens, I'm just going to erase a couple dots here, is that if you look at where these two, for any given product, and these lines can be in different places for different things. So for any given product, let's say this is the supply demand line. This is the supply line and the demand line. Where they intersect is going to be, this is going to be about how many of these will be produced, and this is going to be about the price that people want to pay for them. So what Sam Zell was doing is he was saying, hey, what if there's something where the supply is going down? What happens if the supply goes down? Let's draw another. So let's see, my supply line is blue, and let's say the supply of something, there becomes less of it. So this whole line is going to move down. If there's something where the supply is decreasing, let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to undo this. Supply. So for supply, the decreasing, the line will move left. So if the supply is decreasing, there's less of it. Then you will end up having less to sell and selling it for a higher price. It's basic macroeconomics. And consequently, if your demand for something increases, the demand line goes up. Then instead of here, let's say now the price and the quantity will go up. So his basic premise was saying, hey, if there's something where there's going to be flat demand and lowering supply, or flat supply and rising demand, I want that. And so that was how he tried to position himself. He had a bunch of good examples. The mobile home parks is one of them, but to throw out another one, there was a company he bought that was a rail car company, and he had realized that they had that there was, due to some really easy debt, sort of like we've had recently. A lot of this was really interestingly, eerily sounding familiar, but some really easy access to debt. The rail car industry in about 1980 had, I think it was 1980, I might get my years a couple wrong, but anyway, around 1980 had way overbuilt. And there was a huge supply glut. And so the things were cheap. But then because of that, the next several years after that, they stopped building. Basically, there was like something like 100,000 of them got built in 1 year. And then it was like over the next years, it was something like 16,000 total got built over the next 5 years or something. So he realized, hey, wait a minute, as these things come offline, and he looked at the demand seemed flat or even rising a little bit. He goes, there's going to come a point in the future where the supply of these things is going to drop below what people need, and they're going to be worth a lot of money. And so everyone thought he was crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? Rail cars, those things, there's too many of them. Look, you're a real estate guy. What are you doing? But he was just looking at supply and demand. And so he bought this company that had rail cars, and he threw in a ton of money, just basically buying all the rail cars in the country. And sure enough, the demand shot through the roof, and they made a killing, right? So it was a bunch of examples in the book where he was just like, I don't know where the heck he was finding these things, but he was digging through, finding these like supply and demand anomalies. Super interesting. Anyway, mobile home parks are an example of this. Affordable housing. I don't think it's going anywhere. In fact, I think it's getting worse. I think, we're going to go into a recession, and people are going to need it. And then when we come out of the recession, people are going to keep building the luxury stuff, and housing is going to get more and more expensive. And people are. I feel like the demand for affordable housing is increasing. There is no affordable housing being built. There's like apartments with Section 8 and stuff. So I suppose there's like government subsidy. But as far as like mobile home parks, actual affordable housing that people can afford to live in without getting a check from the government, they're it. And the supply of them is shrinking. The supply is shrinking. And so therefore, the value of them should go up. Anyway, that's what I'm seeing there. So yeah, I just thought that was super cool. Like light bulbs clicking off. And then then if we buy these things and we fix them up and we turn them around and we increase the value, maybe we can actually stop the supply from shrinking so much. Because if you just set aside the profit for a second, like on the affordable housing side of things, people need affordable housing. There's an affordable housing crisis in the country, and a big part of the problem is that these things are falling into disrepair, and they're not bringing enough income because no one's raised the rent in 30 years. And so they're getting redeveloped. And it's super crappy when that happens because everybody loses their home. So maybe there's a win-win here where you can look at something, say, hey, wait a minute, there's a demand, there's a diminishing supply, or at least a flat supply, and come in and do some investments, turn some of these things around, and make some money for your family while you're at it. So anyway, I thought that was super cool. Check out the book. Am I Being Too Subtle? It's not actually that new, I don't think. It's like 5 years old, maybe 27. I think it was 2017. Anyway, really fun read. Cheers.